Hi everyone, so today I'm going to be talking about the subjunctive tense, which in Spanish up until now really we've been only speaking about indicative moods, which is everything from the present to the imperfect that we learned about to the preterite. And that's an expression of statements or questions that have absolute certainty to them and factual knowledge. And the subjunctive instead is more of a mood that's used for statements or questions that reflect doubt, desire, emotion, or uncertainty. So that being said, how do we know when we can use the subjunctive form of a verb? I think that with learning about the subjunctive, this one is actually kind of nice because there are some cues that you can use to determine if you should be using the subjunctive tense with the verb. More or less, the subjunctive tense is used in a kind of dependent way upon an independent clause. So there's going to be some indicative form of a verb followed by the word cue that will kind of tie both clauses together, and the subjunctive tense of a verb will be in the dependent clause that comes afterwards. So there's the main clause, which is indicative, the cue, and then a dependent clause, which has the subjunctive attached to it. And an example, this is from 352 in the textbook, says, Mamá quiere que ustedes coman con nosotros esta noche. So, mother would like for all of you to eat with us tonight. So you can see here that would like is the regular conjugation of the verb. And then after the cue, we go into the subjunctive tense of comer, which is to eat. So that being said, what are the subjunctive tenses or conjugations of normal verbs? So these are not exceptions to the rule. And this again is all on 352 of the textbook. So for AR ending verbs, what we do is we take the yo form of the verbs, that singular first person that's going to be conjugated, and we add, as you can see, an e, es, emos, eis, and en to it. So in many ways, I kind of think of the subjunctive conjugation of AR verbs as almost the opposite of the present regular tense of AR verbs. And you can see too that for ER and IR endings, it kind of follows the same trend where instead of an E in the end of these that you would have probably for a regular present tense of courier, you have an A ending. And then the rest of it is fairly easy. It's just cora, coras, cora, coramos, corres, coran. And the nice thing is that ER and IR endings in this tense are the same. There are also some exceptions to the rule, of course. Two that I'll go over here in this video are tenir, which is to have, and venir, which is to come, because the conjugation of these two are similar in the subjunctive tense as well as in the present tense. So I think it's kind of interesting to compare the two. So in present for tenir, to have, I have, it's tengo. In the subjunctive tense, we change that to tenga. Tienes. Now this is interesting. In subjunctive, the first three singular conjugations are all the same. Tenga, 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 whether you're talking about I have, you have, or he, she, or it has. Then tenemos, tengamos instead, so you just keep the G throughout. Tenéis, tengues, tienen, tengan. So venir is kind of similar in the present and subjunctive. You have vengo, vengad, vienes, viene. So the difference here is that the venga is following the regular kind of trend for verb conjugation with I, you, he, she, it, the a, as, a ending instead of having just the a ending in the singular. Venemos, vengamos, see we're keeping the G here, venís, vengues, vienen, vengan. So those are two exceptions to the rule. There are a few extras that you should look at 352. Again, I think the easiest way to study these is to probably just memorize them or write them out many, many times to memorize the conjugations. So now let's look at a few sentences and a few verbs that will come usually before the dependent clause on subjunctive tenses. So an example in this one is mi doctora sugiere que deje de fumar. My doctor suggests that I should quit smoking. So sugerir is to suggest, and dejar is to quit. And you can see here that it has that ending that we were working with earlier. Madre insiste en que hagamos nuestras camas. So mother insists that we make our beds. So insistir is to insist, and again, in this tense, hacer, to make, takes the form of the us plural of the subjunctive. Mi maestra recomienda que estudie más. So my teacher recommends that I study more. Again, recomendar is to recommend, but then after the Q you have the estudar, the conjugation, of the first person singular for verb endings that are again in the AR form. So I hope you found this video helpful, and good luck studying the subjunctive.